Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello.
It's time for Dear Krachel yet again. The
Every
gross
month.
nickname that sounds like an STD, but it's part of our brand.
People will just refer to us as Krachel in calls with me, in emails to me. It's not even weird anymore. And it feels like it should be weird, but it's part of our
stopped
lexicon.
Being weird after my parents started calling us Aunt Krachel. So like you can't really get much weirder than that.
No. We're one collective aunt to your nieces.
I think we got,
and now a nephew.
I think we got literally a joint invitation to like a baby shower at some point.
That sounds right.
That had Aunt Krachel on. So yeah. Blah, blah. Okay. Well, here's the time when, if you're new to this podcast, which might be like one person, so the rest of you have to wait while I listen. I tell this one person what this is. It's an advice column that we do once a month. You can submit a question at any time. There's always a link in the show notes, or you can just email us at contact@clarityonfire.com and hit up Dear Krachel in the subject line and ask us literally anything. I mean, you could ask me anything. You could ask me like, how tall does a giraffe usually get? And I'd be like, I don't know, Google that. But
we would Google it just like you would. But usually, life questions.
Things that I'm qualified to answer as a life and career coach. So anything. Relationships.
We got
career.
Some big questions this time.
I don't think that people who ask them know how big they are.
Well, sometimes it's a little bit more just like a clear-cut answer. Like, what should I do in this situation? But these are just like,
okay, yeah,
deeper questions. Maybe deeper questions is a better way to describe them.
Yeah, but I think some of these people are in for more than they bargained for.
They are.
Which is kind of, you should know that when you're coming into us.
So are you in for more than you bargained for? Because you bargained for this podcast. You know how we do.
If you're brand new to this, you don't. And so I guess what you should bargain for is more than you thought you were bargaining for.
And not always the answer you wanted us to give, but the answer that
you needed to receive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So we got some truth bobombs in this one.
Well, we haven't actually said them yet. So let's hope we can
deliver.
Let's not write. I almost said write asses that our checks can't cash, but you know what I mean. Let's not write checks that our asses can't cash, but I'm pretty sure my ass is good for this. So, okay. Without further ado, go ahead.
Okay. Question 1. Dear Krachel, after a year of a global pandemic, working from home while caring for a 2 and 5-year-old, a recent diagnosis of ADHD, and trying to keep up in a demanding but unstructured work environment where I constantly feel like I'm underperforming, which is a theme in my career in general, I realize I need all of the following: therapy, executive coaching, clarity coaching, and ADHD/executive function coaching. I obviously cannot address or afford all of them at once. Where the hell would I even begin? I'm an Enneagram type 4 who presents more like a 9, and I'm an obliger on the 4 tendencies quiz, although my husband swears I'm an undercover rebel. I'm self-aware, but I'm not very trusting of my capabilities right now. Where does someone like me, with multiple intertwined issues that sometimes contradict each other, start? This is from Anna.
Okay. I know that it seems like this is a tangled mess of a web. And I'm sure it feels like that. I know it feels like that. And in order to undo a tangle, we don't pull on all ends at the same time. What do we do when that happens? We create a knot.
a much bigger tangle.
A much bigger knot. So I think she's smart to ask, where do I start? Because it's like we have to follow one thread.
Mhm.
But in following one thread of a tangled necklace, I'm thinking of this as trying to untangle your jewelry box, situation. In order to untangle a necklace, you kind of have to just follow one like thread down the whole time and then let that untangle the rest.
And it usually does, or
That's
at least
how
it makes
it works.
the rest of them easier to untangle.
Yes.
So I like that she's saying, I can't do all of them at once. I agree. You shouldn't do all of them at once. Where do you start then? So if you start with one thread to untangle the whole mess of necklaces in your jewelry box,
you have to pick the right thread.
How do I pick the right thread?
I don't know that there is a right thread. Okay. But I have different options for how you could choose to approach this based on what feels better. So first of all, there is no right. Let's just be very clear. For her and for anyone listening to this, there is no right or wrong place to start. I think the bigger problem would be not starting.
Yeah, we have suggestions, but even then, you don't have to choose them. You could pick any of those avenues. I promise it will be the right one in the end, and it will help all the others become easier to deal with. So again, none of this is prescriptive. You're right to just choose a place to start. But there are a couple of places that might be easier or more approachable to start.
Well, okay. So back to what I was saying.
Options.
Not choosing is the worst option.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The worst option is not doing anything and thinking, let me just wait till I figure out the right one and then don't start. Starting is the best option. Okay. Where to start? One, you could choose to see it through the lens of what is the path of least resistance? I got all these options. They all feel kind of heavy. Which one feels like, okay, I think I could manage that. I think I could handle that. That feels like relief. Which one feels like relief is a good way to answer what's the path of least resistance.
Now that might mean it feels easiest or simplest. It might mean it feels just the most approachable. Like, okay, I've maybe done some of that before. That feels a little bit easier to start in. Anything that feels like we're slowly building momentum is usually one of the easier paths. So if you're like, I kind of at least know what to do, whereas some of the others, I don't even know where to start. Well, do the thing where you at least know what to do. You're going to feel some relief in just choosing and starting to take some action in that regard. So again, relief, simplicity, just easiest, even if none of them feel easy, could be a great place to start. Again, path of least resistance.
Whatever lightens the load, whatever feels like that is the thing that feels like it just released a little bit of a burden off of my shoulders. That would be the path of least resistance. Okay. Alternatively, you could decide to go for the one that you think, and you might not know, but you could do intuitively, which one do I think is like a big common denominator one, right? Like, which one has the most potential to help me get at the root of maybe more than one of my issues?
Yeah, exactly. Said a different way, or maybe a good question to ask yourself is, which of these feel like they're affecting me most right now? So if you don't know, if trying to figure out the root feels too hard because it all feels, some of them.
Part of it is like, I need this in order to figure out what the root of my issues really is. So I get that.
Right. But if you gave a list of all these different things that are challenging right now, if you look at one and said, whew, that feels like it is just the heaviest of all, or it feels like if I could figure that thing out, some of these other things might end up feeling a little bit easier. If you have some intuitive idea about that, that's another good place to start, because it might be a heavier lift at the beginning, but it might mean the rest of them are a lot easier to untangle, because some of them might have been side effects of that root. And the side effects might mostly go away or get resolved if you handle the root issue. So you might not have to do all. I feel like the way you're thinking about this right now is, I have all these different issues or challenges, and I have to systematically work my way through each one.
No, it's like what you're imagining is like 5 different dominoes lined up next to each other, not one behind the other.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
like, I have to go through and flick each individual domino over. And Kristen and I are like, no.
Flick the
this
first
is a
one.
line. This is a line. We're going to flick one domino. And that will help the cascade start. What we are suggesting is about building momentum. It's not about crossing things off a list and starting with this, and then I'll move over to this type of coaching, and then I'll go do this type of therapy. It's more like, let's start with something that helps you build momentum. And then we're going to ask, where do I then want to invest my energy next? Which honestly, you might not need all of this stuff.
I'm not sure
Once
you do.
Start one place, you might not need all of it.
These are not mutually exclusive either. A lot of these are going to have quite a bit of overlap. So even if they seem like different challenges right now, once you get in, they might all be different branches of the same tree.
They are all different branches of the same tree. That's not like a theory. I think that's just a fact. So the beautiful thing about most forms of good therapy and good coaching and all of the things you're interested in exploring are in that realm, are that they should theoretically get you to the root level. So it doesn't really matter where you start because you should end up in the same place, no matter where you choose to begin. So what feels like relief? What maybe excites you the most to start with? That could be a question. Maybe you don't feel excited about anything, and that would be fair.
It might just be easiest, and that's fine now. If you're overwhelmed, sometimes like, I can't pull on all the threads, but this one, maybe I can start there. Okay, go there. If that's all the energy you've got, do that.
What will happen if it works the way I believe it works? If you choose somewhere to start that feels the best to you, you will start doing some of the work. You will start untangling this. You will get some of your energy back. You will get more clarity. And then you will have a better idea of where you want to then go next. And that momentum will then start to snowball and accrue and build on itself. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to knock out all of your issues with the power of momentum, not with the power of having to start over with
every time.
No, that's not going to happen. Doesn't need to happen.
It does not need to happen. And it won't happen that way. Even if that's how you went into it. Once you're in the messy middle, you're going to realize, oh, actually, that thing's not such a big deal anymore. I kind of got that figured out. That's just how it always works. So I hope it's a relief for you to know you can't choose wrong here.
No.
And I also hope it's a relief that you have choices. It's okay to start with the easiest thing. I think sometimes we get these hangups in our head. Like,
I have to start with like the hardest thing because that's the right thing to do because I'm a hard worker or whatever bullshit you inherited from your parents or our society.
We give you full permission to choose the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And if you're also just like, I want to just go into the heart of this thing and I don't want to mess around.
Over with.
And I just want to find the thing that feels like it's got a lot of different branches off of it that'll get resolved along the way. You can do that too. Both are equally good, frankly.
It's all about your energy and what you feel the most aligned with. If you feel aligned, you're doing it right. Okay. So you can't choose wrong. Let us know what you choose. We would be interested in hearing that.
Really, who has just one issue? There's no one that I know who's like, life is great. I'm all good except this one thing. And I'm just going to work on that one thing and then I'm set. No, we all have multiple issues we're trying to work through simultaneously.
Sometimes I think that I'm that person, but I think that might be part of my baggage.
That there's just the one thing and then everything else will be fine.
Yeah.
I think we all think that. Never actually.
Sometimes I think that I'm that person, but I don't think that anyone actually is.
I don't think anyone actually is. So we're all just trying to figure out what thread do I start pulling on?
Yeah.
And again, you can't get it wrong.
Okay. Let's move on to our next question. Dear Krachel, I want to start my own business and be my own boss, or even start a side hustle and build from there. But I don't have any business ideas that excite me. My passion profile is a thriver, and my ultimate goal in life is to have the freedom that comes from owning my time and financial independence. And to be honest, travel the world. While I've accumulated many skills over the past decade working as a paralegal and trust officer, I'm having a tough time envisioning a business that I could develop that not only excites me, but will also give me the flexibility and freedom that I crave. What new thought process can I practice and questions should I ask myself to help discover and build my next path? Uninspired Thriver.
Uninspired Thriver. I'm probably not.
She or he or they is in for an answer right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, I shouldn't have poked that bear. I feel bad now. No, we're not going to feel bad. We're going to help you feel better. But we're going to make it worse before you feel better.
I'm going to poke some holes in this. I don't think you actually want a business. I think you just want money and freedom. Yeah. And you think that a business is the best way to do that.
Potentially maybe the only way
I
to do that.
am less convinced.
Yeah,
that
unless
that's
you
gonna
win the lottery.
Right. Because like most real thrivers that I know, that's their actual preferred goal.
Yeah.
Just be independently wealthy and do whatever I want.
Yeah. So a lot of people, and I'm not, this isn't a call out. This is just a wake up call, slightly different. Okay?
And you are not the first thriver to come to me with this idea. This is a common theme that we see because I think a lot of thrivers assume business ownership equals freedom. Yeah.
So we're just going to try to give you a wake up call around what you're asking about so that you can go in this with a realistic picture. And also Kristen and I are not here to be prescriptive. Like we have said over and over again that passion profiles are not about putting yourself in a box. So it's not like we're saying thrivers can't be business owners. Mm-hmm. It's just, we want to wake you up to the reality of the difference between what you're asking for, which is money and freedom and the ability to travel, and business ownership, which is not always that. Okay. And that there might be another way to get to money, freedom, and travel that is a lot easier than business ownership.
And that your thriver is actually a lot happier in that structure.
Yeah. So a lot of thrivers, Kristen and I are each part thriver, and we've each coached a lot of thrivers and part thrivers. I have never, not once, met a thriver who started a business who didn't eventually at some point say, I mean, I'd still rather just not work. So I think what we often think when we're stuck in a job, and this can be not just thrivers too, this can be any passion profile. When we're stuck in a job that we don't love, that feels like it's hinging upon our impeding our freedom.
Impinging on our freedom?
Impinging? That's not a freaking word.
I don't know. There is a word that you're trying to get to that I can't place.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, whatever. Infringing? Is that what we're trying to say?
I think infringing is the word.
Yeah, that's
But infringing on your freedom sounds weird because it's alliteration.
I really, at this moment, I don't know if impinge is a word or not, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
I'm going to Google that as soon as we're done.
There are people who are Googling that right now. And they're like, I can't take these bitches seriously anymore. I thought you had an English degree. Okay. So there are a lot of people, not just thrivers, lots of passion profiles who are stuck in jobs that are infringing upon their freedoms. And they think, well, if I started a business, I'd be able to work for myself and I could work from anywhere and I could work from any country and I could just make money in my sleep. All of the wonderful things that you hear about the good side of entrepreneurship. And so you think that's the way because I don't have a trust fund and I'm not going to win the lottery. Mm-hmm. And so it makes sense why we're all attracted to that, or at least that it sounds like it's going to be a great idea.
Sure.
And for some people, it might be. And let's actually open their eyes to the realities of what starting a business is actually like.
First of all, it's not going to, unless, no, even still, it's not going to be like that at the beginning.
No.
Not for a while, frankly. No. Because in order to get to the place where you have enough, you've built a foundation and you've got a solid pool of people who want what you're offering, product, service, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you've got enough things automated that you truly do have freedom to let things kind of run themselves somewhat and you do more overlooking. That just takes time. There's no way to snap your fingers and get to that place. And it might take years. I'm not saying
if it works, it will take years.
If it works,
it will take years and a lot of investment of money that like you have to put up a lot of money. Doesn't matter. Even if you're trying to start a business like coaching where there's not a ton of upfront costs other than like starting a website or hiring a designer or that type of stuff. Like there's not a ton of, it's not like you're trying to build a product or something that you have to sell and you need like capital
you don't need
for it.
Storefront or something.
No, it's not like that. Even then, you're still going to need to invest in a lot of resources. Like you might need a business coach. You might want to take courses on like, I don't know, how to do email marketing. There's so many practicalities that go into it that you have to invest in order to get started. And then you got to spend years working a lot a lot more
there's-
than you want to.
There's no clocking in and clocking out.
Nope, because there's no boundaries. Because like, at least with a job, it's like you're like, bye, Dave. It's 5. I'm clocking out. And that's it. Or it can be it. When it's your business, it's like, I'm responding to emails at 9:00 at night because I'm also trying to work full time while starting this business, because I didn't just, like an idiot, like Kristen and I did, quit our full-time jobs with no real plan and no real source of income. And so we're just working all the time.
Yeah. So being a business owner, at least in the early years, is kind of like having like 6 jobs instead of just one job.
Yeah.
And you have no guaranteed income. So it might come and go, but it's going to be unsteady. And that's just the early stages. I mean, that's not a limiting belief. That's just, I have yet to meet a person who's overcome that part of the business process. So if that doesn't scare you, okay, then maybe the long-term payoff is worth it to your Thriver to get to that place. I have a feeling though, you could get there a lot simpler.
Well,
because your end result is not necessarily the goal of like the mission of the business. Your end result is not like, I really want to create this service that's going to help these people or create this product that I have this brilliant idea for. It's, I just want freedom and space and money to travel.
Right. So that's part of the missing formula here. Like that's part of the calculus that is missing that I'm not sure we can fix. Because at least when you're a fire starter, you heard all of that. You heard all those caveats and you're like, yeah, but I am on fire about something and I got to do it. And I don't give a shit. I'm going to work my ass off to make it happen. I'm going to work like 12-hour days or even if I'm not working 12-hour days, like I care so much about what I'm doing that I am going to commit to the ups and downs and to the risks and the instability in order to make it happen. Right now, you don't have that. You don't have something that excites you. And here's where we're going wrong. I think potentially wrong is you think there is an idea out there that will excite you enough to overcome the fact that you are a thriver. I have yet to find a true thriver who found something, whether it was a job or a business, that excited them so much that they forgot they were a thriver. And that they forgot that what they really wanted was like freedom and stability and like predictability and the ability to to have fun and to travel. I do not think there is a white knight in the form of an exciting idea that's going to make you forget that that is what you actually value.
And what we don't want is for this idea of business ownership that feels really good, feels like it's going to answer a lot of the things that you want, to not turn out the way you expected, and then to really burn you out and stress you out and make you feel like something's wrong with you. So that's why we want to paint this picture now so that you don't feel like I'm doing it wrong or something's wrong with me. No. This is just how it is. This is what you would be signing up for. Are you down? Maybe. I don't know. If you're not down, I do think there's easier ways. I think you might have a little bit of a belief here that I can't get enough of a Thriver job to give me the space that I want. I'm not so sure that's true.
I have met a lot of people who have jobs where they like work half of the time, but they're getting paid full time because their job is just really slow. And like they can work remotely. So they could go travel and do their job and get paid well. Like, does that sound easier to you than starting a business and working your butt off for years with no guarantee of actual success? Because like that's what I just described is easier than starting a business. It's easier to find that than it is to start a successful business that like will run itself in its sleep and make you a ton of residual income so you don't really have to work. Like 10 times easier, at least.
Like easier to get there and then easier to actually do the thing. And there's still predictability and spaciousness built into the structure.
Yes.
Okay. So another idea that popped into my head. So my boyfriend's cousin, it's like a weird relationship, but I have never yet had her take the quiz, but I would bet a lot of money that she is a thriver.
You don't know that she hasn't taken it when you weren't looking.
I don't know that. She might have. I don't think she's listening, but if she is, she can tell me what her result was.
Okay.
She also wants the same things that you want in a lot of ways: steady money, the ability to travel, she's really into like skiing and hiking and kayaking and, the outdoorsy
she's an
stuff.
outdoorsy person.
And she has structured her work so that she only picks up contracts, and she'll pick up contracts and then she'll take like a month off of her contract and then pick up a new contract. And the kind of work that she does, people always need some of that. So she just decided not to get a full-time job, but it's also not her own business. So she's just is like, I'm going to work for 3 or 4 months, and then I'm going to go ski for a month. And then I'm going to come back and work for a few more months. And then I'm going to go hike in the summer.
I actually have a client like that too, who basically does the same thing in the medical world. She takes on like short-term, like, doctor or nurse practitioner type contracts, and then works on those and gets paid well, for like a couple months. And right now is like not working for the summer. Like she and her husband just road tripped across the country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there might be easier options where you don't have to start something from the ground up. You could just work your way into a system that already has this pre-built for you.
Yep.
And just save yourself a lot of angst.
Which might get over, but she might have to get over, I'm assuming she, but I could be wrong. So forgive me if I am. She could be stuck on, but in my industry, that's not possible. I'm like, okay, well, there's one of two answers to that. One is bullshit, because there's probably possibility, because I don't think we can just blanket say that's not possible in my industry. Second, okay, then that might exist in a different industry, in which case
if you were already
switch.
If you were already willing to go find a business idea and start a whole new career.
You're willing to start a new job in a different industry too.
Exactly. And again, you wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. You could just find something that you're kind of interested in, but not necessarily interested enough to like become the expert and build a business around it.
Right.
But just learn it enough to get into a different industry that has that structure easily built in.
Listen, part of the benefit of being a thriver and like leaning into your thriverness is that you don't have to be on all of the time. You get to mentally and literally clock in and clock out. So one of my biggest concerns for thrivers who want to start businesses is that they don't realize that they're never going to be able to mentally clock out, or it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that. And they never get a break. And thrivers need breaks.
Yep.
Like they thrive on their downtime and on their ability to pursue their passions. And so I'm afraid that starting a business would actually just eat up all of your thriver time. And I want you to retain the ability to like be a real thriver. And so let's address the elephant in the room, which is, what if you are a thriver and you still want to start a business? Like you heard all of this and you're like, yeah, shut up. I've got my pedal to the metal. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I have a couple of thoughts right off the bat, which is if you are still committed to this, you need to decide from the early days, I am going to build a structure that ultimately leads to more freedom, because there's a lot of different types of businesses out there.
Yeah.
And you could find yourself in a hole where you have now, your time is so necessary to keep all of the wheels turning in the business that you end up feeling way less free than you ever did. So you have to be like, I need to start a thing that ultimately I can step away from and it still runs, instead of I keep having to show up more and more and more to grow. Yeah.
I would also say that if you are dead set, not just this thriver, any thriver is dead set on starting a business, you probably are going to have a really hard time having a full-time job and trying to start a business, because when is your thriver time then? Right. If you're working full-time and then the rest of your time is also working.
Now all you're doing is working.
Guess what? You're going to be burnt out within 2 weeks, because as a thriver, that's not feasible. So if you're going to start a business as a thriver, it really helps to scale back if possible. Like have a part-time job while you build a business. Okay. That might be more doable because there's more balance. Like you can still have your thriver downtime when you're doing it that way.
Yeah, agreed. Because if you burn out too early on, it just takes a lot of mojo all the way through the first few years of business. And if you burn out in the first couple of months, that's not going to be good.
Another way to start a business as a thriver is to really see it less as like a goal for like my eventual life freedom and more of like a hobby. That might make me money.
Yeah.
But I'm not like desperately needing it to make me money.
And it doesn't have to be something I'm super excited about, but just kind of like a fun thing.
Yeah.
That could be pretty easy side money. And if it grows into something later, cool.
Great.
But I'm not going to put that pressure on it.
Pressure and thriver are the kiss of death.
Yep.
You put pressure on a thriver, they crumble. That's not them. So it has to be fun. So if you can start a business in a way that feels like a fun hobby, great. But if you feel like, well, I don't know if I can rely on a fun hobby to eventually fund my freedom, then we might just need a job that allows you to be the kind of thriver you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not saying all roads lead back to thrivers having jobs. I'm just saying often they find that at least like the full thrivers, the part thrivers have it a little bit more difficult because they're like being pulled in two different directions. If you're a real true blue, like I don't relate that hard to any of the other ones, thriver, a lot of roads are going to lead back to you just probably needing a job that's more suited to your passion profile so that you can build in the space and the freedom to travel and have the fun that you want to have. And I think that's totally possible for you if you are attracted to that idea. You just have maybe thought, I can't do it that way. Mm-hmm. I think you can. Mm-hmm. I think it would be easier than starting a business.
And we try to give a couple of examples of some different ways you might look at it. But I would encourage you to, if you don't think that's possible in your industry, I want you to see if you can prove yourself wrong. See if you can find anyone who's doing a version of what you're doing, but with more freedom and flexibility than you have. And it might be at a different company. Yep. It might be in a different part of the country. I don't know, it might look a little different, but it might at least open up the door for you to think, oh, I thought I had to go this whole other route. Maybe I don't.
Maybe I can make like instead of a 180-degree change, maybe I can make like a 20-degree change and get the same damn thing.
Or better for me.
With 160 degrees less work. Right?
Most thrivers I know would be like,
yeah,
please, I want that one. So I know that is not the answer that you wanted, but I believe it was the answer you needed. I hope you will find it to be the deeper truth behind your question.
I hope you will allow in what we said, even though you might have some resistance to it.
And that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our last question.
Last question. Dear Krachel, what do you do when you feel like you've stopped dreaming? I love a lot of things about my life, the city I live in, my new house, my 2 adorable kids, but I can't help but feel like I've stopped dreaming. As a kid, I dreamed of being on Broadway, having a family of my own, traveling around the world. Later on, I dreamt of being a well-known and sought-after wedding planner, which then got put on pause after relocating with my family. I still have that dream, but I'm also approaching 36 years old. I have 2 small kids that need me, and traveling with kids is a pain in the butt. So what do you do when you run out of dreams? And that is from Lauren.
Okay, Lauren, you have not run out of dreams. You just don't have any space to allow dreams to find you. I trust that she said working mom of 2 kids?
I'm not sure if that was in there or not, but
okay. Well, I'm assuming she's a working mom of 2 kids. Either way, even if you just have 2 kids.
I mean, you are a working mom if you have 2 kids, even if you don't have another job.
But if we then add like the other job on top of that, it's wow. Okay. So I know that as a mom of 2 young kids, you don't have any time for like processing or space for yourself to like even think. It's not that you've all of a sudden like lost your dreams or that you stopped dreaming. It's that you have so much noise and not enough space that creativity and flow and inspiration can't really reach you. And so it's not your job to come up with bigger and badder dreams to counteract where you're at in life right now. It's your job to maybe do way less than you even think that you need to do to open up the channel so that you can allow inspiration to find you. 10 minutes of like meditation every other day might help. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's like, I gotta what are my big dreams? And I'm like, maybe just like 10 minutes of quiet time might be the answer here. It's so much small. Again, the 20-degree change with 180-degree turnaround is what we need here.
I agree. I do get this sense that life just probably feels very overcrowded right now. And sometimes when life feels busy or just there's a lot going on and you feel pulled in a bunch of different directions, you might intellectually want a big dream to give your energy to, but you might also subconsciously be resisting it because it's like, it's just like one more thing to figure out and I'm kind of exhausted. And without space, you're not going to, even if those dreams did kind of flow to you right now, you might be too tired to even feel that strongly about them. So I do think space is going to do a couple of things. I think first of all, it's going to make you feel a little bit more like there is more space in your life to add something in, something exciting.
Sure.
So you kind of give yourself permission, like, I can take little bits of space for myself. So maybe that could turn into something that I really want to give my energy to. But also, all those dreams that you described before, I don't believe you sat down and you were like, what is my next big dream? Those things just flowed out of you. And they're still trying to do that. But they need space and they need a little bit of quiet to reach you. So I do think that the second benefit of it is you're just going to actually have more access to the things you truly want. It's normal for your dreams to evolve over different phases of your life. So even if there's a part of you that feels nostalgic for some of those old dreams, they may have been exactly what you needed to fuel you then, and they might look very different now. So the fact that those things might not feel quite as exciting as they did doesn't mean you've run out of dreams. It just means you're in a new phase of life and there's new dreams for this new version of you.
Mm-hmm.
We got to let them in. In addition to meditation, I kind of want to direct her to the artist way, not to do the whole thing necessarily, but at the very least to do
some morning pages
or artist date, or maybe both, to open back up the creative dreamer that's hiding within her.
I bet if she did morning pages for like 2 weeks, the idea would just find her, like no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's a way of creating space too. Mental space, actual space.
Yep.
For herself.
If she hasn't, Lauren, if you haven't listened to our side chat from last month about feminine energy, like we did a whole like 3 steps process to getting into feminine energy. The first one is about making more space in your life. You need to go back and listen to that because that's really what we need. We don't need a big idea. We don't need a big dream. We need a little bit more feminine energy in your life.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to force coming up with a new dream. I think you have to let it flow. I think you have got to receive it.
Yeah. So that one was from last month, June. It was a side chat, how to actually do feminine energy. Start there if you have not listened to that. And if you have, then focus on how can I create more space?
Mm-hmm.
And space is, again, like literal, but also more so for you, like time and physical and emotional and energetical. Energetical? Sure, let's go with that.
Energetical.
Also, there's a great podcast episode I did, a normal person interview from December of 2020. So scroll back like 6 months. It's called Making More Space in Your Life, Even When You Don't Believe It's Possible, with Anna Gore, one of my clients. And she's also a mom of 3 kids and a working mom. And so we talk about how she made that happen, even when it looks like it's not feasible. And I can attest, just talked to her yesterday as the time we're recording this. She's like, I'm more productive now and I work less and I'm like having better relationship with my kids and my spouse. And I'm feeling so much better. And guess what? This really cool idea, this really cool big dream has like showed up in her life without her effort. Okay. Yeah. So like, it's about allowing, it's not about trying to figure it out.
And also just keep in mind, as you're allowing ideas to come to you, they might not come in as like, this is the dream. It might come in as, I'm a little bit curious about this. Or I just kind of get this impulse to look into this or read this book. So it might start like a small little inkling or a little thing you're curious about. And if you pull on that thread, we're pulling a lot of threads in this episode, it might turn into a big dream. So don't expect it to come down necessarily as like a light bulb moment. It might be a slow build, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I don't think we're necessarily looking for like the heavens to part and like the perfect idea to plop down onto your lap. It might be like the first breadcrumb in a series of breadcrumbs we then follow using our curiosity. We also have a couple episodes for Uninspired Thriver that I thought of as we're talking about episodes.
Okay.
well, not episodes, but like we've had blogs and episodes in the past about taking a sabbatical.
Yes.
Which might be fun inspiration for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, well, maybe you could just work some and then not work some. So we had a blog from 5 years ago that I'm going to link to about how, like taking a sabbatical. And we've also had a normal person interview at one point that I'm going to link to in the show notes about taking a sabbatical.
I mean, I have yet to meet a thriver who hates the idea of a sabbatical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and some of you non-thrivers listening might also be interested in that.
The blog is called How to Take a Long Sabbatical from Working. It was from March of 2016.
Wow.
And then the normal person interview was from September of 2019. And that was taking a year-long sabbatical from work with Francine Menz.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, a couple things about sabbaticals that I will link to as well. Anyway, I didn't mean to totally derail our conversation with Lauren, but I feel like we kind of made our point with her, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
create space and then follow your curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. These are the kind of answers I love to give. It's like, the theme ended up being today, because we always decide what the theme was at the end. Today, the theme was, you're trying to make it harder than it needs to be. You could probably do like 20% effort and get 80% or 100% reward out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like scale back what you think you need to do in order to get what you want.
Or maybe just rethink what you think you need to do. Maybe you don't even need to go in that direction. Another direction would actually get you there. It's like, yeah, you're going the whole loop around and you could just take the direct route.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always feel direct. It feels
it might logically look
not intuitive.
indirect,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be actually perfectly emotionally, intuitively direct.
Yeah, I feel like we gave a lot of answers that people did not expect us to give today. And I like doing that.
The
sometimes.
essentialist answers, the simplistic minimalist answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are we overcomplicating this? All of this, like, just do less.
Yeah, do less,
and still get what you want. In fact, get better than what you want by doing less. That is possible.
That is the real win here.
That is
so. Even if
the way,
even if some of these were a little hard to hear, I hope on the other side of them, you're like, that was way easier. I'm really glad. Mm-hmm. I'm really glad I got a little bit of tough love early on, because I feel a lot better on the other side.
Okay. All right. Well, you know that we would like to hear from Anna, Lauren, and Uninspired Thriver. So if you guys want to send us updates, you're welcome to email us anytime. Share a question with us. If you're listening to this and you're like, okay, this is making me think, send us a question. There's a link in the show notes, or you can email us, contact@clarityonfire.com.
And if you weren't one of the question askers, but this resonated or made you think of things in a new way, we always love to hear your comments. So come comment on the blog where this lives on our site.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's it. We will be back next Friday with
a special guest as our normal person.
A very special normal person that you won't be expecting.
We'll reveal it next week.
You won't be expecting it. Okay. See you then.
Bye.